welcome in to the Gaming Discourse. I'm Tyler Frater alongside Richard A. the Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Good evening.
It is Monday, June 13th, 2022. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at the Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse. Latest video is a discussion with Mark Dara, former BioWare developer. Go check that out. Working on a new video right now about the Saboteur, an open world game from Pandemic that released in 2009. If you subscribe to one of our Patreon levels, you can get that video early, which is super prestigious. It's the Titanic of subscription service. Actually, that's a really bad way to put it. It's only because we watched Titanic. It doesn't matter. Patreon.com/Gaming Discourse.
Far more luxurious.
That is the enterprise of Patreon subscription services.
Ration to a planet.
I almost feel like we should just restart the podcast.
It's the Enterprise that's not like driven by Kirk, right?
It's the Enterprise
That
E.
one keeps blowing up.
Yeah, they all sort of blow up a lot, so I'm not sure
This is
what
also
ship.
a bad example.
Yeah, the old Ironsides.
How
How
many times does DS9 blow up?
0?
And there you go.
USS Constitution.
There we go.
Everyone comes to us.
We'll be talking about Fallout 76. We'll be talking about Axie Infinity, which is a pay-to-earn game. We haven't talked to NFTs and crypto or cryptocurrencies in a bit, so we'll be covering those.
I was like not talking about NFTs and cryptos.
So most of the stuff we're talking about, I like not talking about, but we got it. Who's been playing games?
Richard.
Me, I'm the only one.
Hey.
I guess. I started up Kina, Bridge of Spirits finally.
Oh, okay.
That was
Awesome.
on my backlog.
Awesome.
That's a cute little game. That's a good game.
It is.
I likened it earlier today to kind of the older like PS2 action adventure games like Jak and Daxter and
All right.
like if the younger audience is like Attack and the Power of Juju and like those types of like not necessarily collectathon games like Banjo-Kazooie and stuff, but it kind of straddled that line between being a full-on like game that kids could play, but also something that adults could enjoy. I think it like rides that middle line because it's not very difficult. It's very high production quality. When those cutscenes start, I'm always very taken back. Like, wow, this is gorgeous looking. So, but yeah, it's a nice little one that I'm playing. I hope I can beat it soon. I don't know. It didn't seem like it was going to be a very long game, and I didn't really realize that there would be kind of a pseudo open world aspect to it. It's not really. I know it's not.
It's kind of like Midgard.
Yeah.
You run around, you get abilities that open up little tiny houses or whatever, and there's more stuff in there for you.
But I like that a lot. And that was very good. Beyond that, I've been started up. I'm kind of in a rut right now. I don't really want to get invested in anything, even though I have tons to get invested in. Mm-hmm. But also, I don't really want to like waste my time. But I still waste my time. Anyways, I started playing like Rogue Company. It's like a free play shooter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. That's a fun one because it's kind of this really neat cross between, I guess I'll say, Overwatch and Counter-Strike. So you have operators who like do different things, and they have different abilities. But you all, of course, jump into a map, kind of Battle Royale style. But the maps are very, very small, because it's only 6-on-6. So once you get down there, you have the money to purchase whatever weapons you choose. But as you take down enemies and then you respawn, you can go back into your buy menu. And let's say you bought like an assault rifle. If you have enough money, you can upgrade that assault rifle to its like highest ability, and that does more damage, etc. Or if you're on that same menu, you can purchase perks or maybe like grenades and stuff like that. So it's just this really nice get in, get out type of multiplayer gameplay that I find has a very nice gameplay loop.
Oh, okay.
Has a very nice gameplay loop that can, once again, no consequence. I can just jump in, kind of do whatever I want for a couple matches, jump back out. And that's it. I've been playing those two.
Anything, Connor?
So, I mean, I've played a little bit of continuation of my Ottoman campaign and Europa Universalis.
Very nice.
I put maybe an hour in the past week. A lot of it's been just management stuff in between wars, setting up construction of different shipyards, building up like reinforcing my armies, stuff like that. Nothing exciting,
Of course.
but stuff that has to be done. Currently, where I'm at is I've secured most of the Balkans. I'm starting my way into Mesopotamia. I'm working my way down the Levant. I'm moving into Egypt.
At the height of the Ottoman Empire, how large was the empire?
It reached into modern day Hungary, like up towards Austria, reached over to Algeria, down through Egypt, following the Nile, and along the Arabian Peninsula.
Wow. And then it all collapsed after World War I, right?
A little bit before, and then during World War I, yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't at its peak during World War
Okay.
Fallen apart a lot prior to World War I.
That's one of those weird empires that you forget existed not that long ago.
And it
You know?
existed for like 600,
Yeah.
700 years.
Kind of weird when you think about it.
Yeah.
But it gets I think that history maybe gets obscured by World War I or whatever. I don't know. But it's interesting.
Well, I mean, when you talk the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries, a lot of people just focus on...
It's Eurocentric.
It's very Eurocentric,
Yeah.
and people focus England, France, Spain because of colonizations.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I haven't really played much. I played the show. I lost today. I was angry. Ended a 10-game winning streak. Now I'm on a 1-game losing streak.
Is it a streak if it's one?
No, it's not. A few things that I've learned thus far. So this happens when you play fantasy football too. Well, kind of. You get sort of caught up in your fake version, and then you get relieved, or maybe not relieved, maybe horrified when you see the real version. But like, so I'm like right now, for whatever reason, Aaron Judge just can't get a break when I end the show. I just can't get hits. He grounds into double plays. I have him batting second in the lineup, and I'm like, maybe I need to drop him in the lineup because he's batting at like 280, which is good, but I have other guys that are batting above 300. And so I find myself thinking, I don't know what Judge needs to do, but he needs to get out of the slump. And then in real life, Aaron Judge is on pace for 60 homers. He's having a record-setting season. So I'm like, oh, no, I'm fine with this. I'm fine with this. I'm fine with this. I will lose the rest of my games in my stupid show 22 year if it means Aaron Judge sets records and the Yankees make it a deep postseason run. I'm fine with that. But anyways, that's funny. So the other thing about the show... the incorrect play-by-play calls continue to happen. But there was one other thing that happened. Oh, okay. I'm a little bit irked by this. So I feel like if I make solid contact, I should get more success than I have. Mm-hmm. So when you hit the ball in the show, there's a little meter that tells you how accurately you timed that
the
swing, right? And it's based on the ball and the bat hitting squarely perpendicular, right? So you want that perfectly. Okay, it's really difficult to get a perfect hit, but if you can get it into the green, usually that's solid contact. And in baseball, solid contact doesn't necessarily mean that it's a hit that's going to land in play. It just means you hit the fat part of the bat solidly with the ball, or you hit the fat part of the ball hit the fat part of the bat, whatever.
There you go.
Yes. Yeah. And this is a baseball podcast now.
Yeah.
And it's a good solid hit, right? Well, in the show, man, I've gotten really good at timing hits, and I make solid contact.
It's like grounder to first,
grounder to first, pop out, and it's just annoying. Mm-hmm. And like I'll have games. I had a game where I had 18 hits and like 4 runs. So I get a single, double play, something like that, you know, or I get a double and then ground ball out,
fly out,
pop fly. And I was just like, son of a bitch, you know, but it's all good hits. So I don't know what's going on with the show. Maybe I just need to get better at the game.
You're the one who wanted the game harder.
I am.
This is true.
That's like in other games, if you want the game harder, they just give more health to the enemies. And you got to whack at them for longer. Now this is your consequence.
This is true. I feel like I annoyed you somehow.
No, you didn't.
No. Oh, okay.
#gamers.
Just making sure. Hit me.
We want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this episode:
They have been silently supporting us since the very beginning, and we felt it was time to give them some love. The like and share buttons have been at our side since episode 1 of the podcast. They can be found just beneath this episode. Please give them a click, it helps us greatly. If you're feeling lucky, click the bell icon to enter for a notification anytime we post new content. You may be surprised by what you get.
A story by CC Zhang at Kotaku, the human toll of Fallout 76. I apologize, don't know how to pronounce the first name there, but I'm pretty certain that the last name is Zhang. Spoke with 10 former and at least 2 current employees of Bethesda and ZeniMax Media familiar with Fallout 76's development. There's a ton in the story about Todd Howard, about a lot of stuff. We're not going to be able to get to everything, but we'll summarize it here. Some sources have said that they signed a non-disparagement agreement upon leaving and feared ZeniMax's influence would prevent them from being hired elsewhere. That's the first time I've actually heard of a non-disparagement agreement. Although I assume it's probably something that's not that uncommon. Much of the story focuses on QA. Testers said they crunched 10-hour days for 6 weeks. Management habitually required overtime from QA, sometimes even when that overtime wouldn't contribute to bug fixing. Crunching at ZeniMax was considered the only way to work in games without moving families. Bethesda's, I don't know if you want to call it their main studio, one of their major studios is in Rockville, Maryland. There's not a lot of other game studios in Rockville, Maryland. So if you're working there, you can't. It's not like San Francisco or Montreal or whatever. Somewhere. It's not like there's another game studio nearby. Regarding obligatory overtime, 2 sources said they tried to raise this issue with Rob Gray, who's the director of QA at ZeniMax, but he deflected or denied that crunch was happening in his department. Sources said QA would have their breaks timed, or they'd even be followed to the restroom by non-management employees described as chronic snitchers. Another source did not recall if people were followed, but knew testers whose bathroom breaks were timed. Crunch wasn't ever officially mandated, but sources called it voluntold overtime. One source said that if nobody volunteered for the weekend, then everybody would have to be called in. A current employee said that peer pressure was the main motivator of crunch, which is something we've heard a lot. Fallout 76's launch obviously did not help things. Besides general bad reviews, the team also got death threats and things like that over social media and whatnot. Some sources noted that Fallout 76 drove an exodus of senior developers who worked on Bethesda's most prolific titles. A couple of sources said they didn't feel the teams had a coherent direction for what Fallout 76 was supposed to be. And then sources said morale was low among other Fallout 4 devs, and some resented working on a live service game since they joined Bethesda specifically because of the company's history of single-player games. So dig in. There's a lot here.
Yeah, no, there is, particularly with Todd Howard, of course. Probably the person we thought he was, but
yeah, and that's something I didn't include in the notes, but we can discuss it. Yeah.
But I feel like, particularly with 76, Fallout 76, this is the type of stuff that would happen more and get accentuated. The problems will get accentuated when you try to chase a trend, and that trend is a live service game. Especially when you think that you have an idea involving one of your most precious franchises and just kind of mold something together. And I think that them trying to chase a live service residual income through Fallout 76, they caused more than enough stress to a lot of good people. It didn't need to be that way, but here we are now, especially with a game that has received very low ratings. And, you know, depending on who you talk to nowadays, apparently is a fine game now, but it's not something that people look at fondly. The public reception of Fallout 76 is very negative, and of course now you've gained nothing from that. You've lost employees and you've lost credibility. And now you're stuck with a game that you're going to have to constantly fix rather than just having something good from out of the gate first time around.
Yeah. I think, so this happened back in 2018. Right. Well, when did 76 come out? Was it 2018 or 2017?
2017?
Was it 2017?
I think they
Was it-
said 2017.
Was it okay? It was either 2018 or
I think
2017.
the story said 17.
Okay, I don't remember.
No,
But-
that seems too early. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it
Keep
doesn't
going.
matter.
2018.
2018. Okay. Well, that was still right around the time when these stories started to get dropped, right? By like Jason Schreier and whatnot and Eurogamer. So it's interesting that this one came out so much later, because you'd think it'd be something that people were more willing to speak about sooner. The other thing is Kotaku's relationship with Bethesda, because as far as I know, they're still blacklisted by Bethesda, and I don't think there's ever been
Right.
a reason given as to why. I think speculation is, didn't Kotaku reported on a game that was unannounced or something like that?
Yes, something like that.
But I don't know off the top
or
of my
gave
head.
bad reviews. One of the two. I can't remember.
Yeah, but I know famously Kotaku was blacklisted by Bethesda, which makes this story interesting because it is specifically about Bethesda. I also can't help but see the comparisons or the similarities between this and the story about Anthem. So you have a studio that is known for single player titles, even RPGs, even though Bethesda started to sort of steer away from that. And at the end, sort of, as Richard alluded to, they go for making a live service game, right? Both of these studios had a engine that may have not been necessarily up to the task of doing that. There's a little anecdote in the story about the creation engine and how the way they described it in the story is that the creation engine like pretends things don't exist, or in the creations engine's mind, it doesn't exist, or maybe it literally doesn't exist in a single player game. If the player is, in Fenway Park, another area of the map somewhere just doesn't exist, right? Obviously, in a multiplayer game, you can't do that because you have people on the map in multiple places. So the engine has to take all that into account. That puts stress on the engine that the engine isn't used to. Point being is that in both Anthem's case and Bethesda's case, you have two engines, Frostbite for Anthem, that weren't necessarily meant for an RPG. For a live service game, and that hurt the studios. You also have friction between two different studios. In this case, you have Bethesda Austin and Bethesda Rockville, which I think is just Bethesda Game Studio. I don't know the official name.
I don't know either. Wasn't aware of the subsidiaries of them.
But yeah, just like with the friction between Ubisoft Edmonton, not Ubisoft, BioWare Edmonton and BioWare Austin, right? Was that the other studio?
Is that the one that they were contacting each other?
Yeah, they were
all the time?
contacting.
Yeah.
They had time zone issues and things like that. But again, you have sort of something similar. Not to mention that Bethesda is like, I think Bethesda Austin works on, did more on like Elder Scrolls type, like the Elder Scrolls Online. I think that's where they did most of their work. So they weren't sort of one of these big single player powerhouse. So you have sort of and I'm not saying that these two groups of people hated each other, whatever, but it's just there's a tension there, there's a spacing there, so it's a similar idea. And then the other idea is that Bethesda considers itself special, right? There's a part in the story where they say, hey, we can get this done. We're a scrappy group of 400 or so developers. Look at the games, look at our history, we can get this done. And that was exactly BioWare's mentality, right?
BioWare Magic.
With BioWare Magic, and not even necessarily the term, but just the idea, the hockey stick, right? As Mark Dara has described it, that's crunch, but the idea that it's a natural part, and not only a natural part of a studio's culture and workflow, but that it sort of inevitably happens, right? So I was stunned by all these, because you could go one by one and just check these things off, and it's like the same exact story. Do you want to talk about the Todd Howard thing?
Sorry, the Todd Howard stuff was in the article, which
I didn't put it in the notes.
I would have to go back to get into to remember.
But Todd Howard seemed to indicate that crunch wasn't as big of a deal. So I think that in an interview at the time, he made crunch look like it wasn't as big of a deal as it was at the time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So and what we see here is that retroactively, that was bullshit, right?
Yes.
Because clearly it was a big deal. There's also a quote in there where he says every game is going to have some level of crunch. Now, whether or not every game is going to have some level of crunch is wrong, I think is interesting. because that may be true. But I think it's not just and I may be wrong in saying this, but I don't think it's just crunch that's the problem. It's the culture and the longevity of it, right? If you have to work a couple weeks of overtime and something like that, I think that's a different case than crunch for years or months, especially when it's something that's been ingrained into a studio and into a studio's culture. And that's different. So when somebody says crunch is sort of an inseparable part of game development, I think we have to understand it's sort of that pirate meme. Well, yes, but no. It's like, and maybe in a sense, but the idea that crunch as we've seen it, where it's long, it's sustained, and stuff like that, that I think we should try not to make part of regular game development. Well, those are the two things Todd Howard said. That
Yes. Also, he has the tendency to bigger is better when it comes to games being made. So probably why the games take longer than they need to in order to come out, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. This just popped in my head. They also described Todd Howard as, I think it was seagulling.
Oh, right. Yes.
So Todd Howard, according to the story, spent most of the time working on Starfield, but every now and then he would come. I guess he would shift focus for himself or whatever on Fallout 76. And in the story, they describe it as seagulling because he would fly over, shit on everything, and disappear. Yeah. Which is kind of funny. But yeah, so that's the stuff about Todd Howard. We should not listen. We make Xbox jokes about Phil Spencer, but you should not celebritize, if that's a word, game developers or game executives, right? I think you can respect some of them. Respect Reggie Fils-Aimé, right? Mm-hmm. Respect Phil Spencer, stuff like that.
Don't idolize them.
But you shouldn't idolize them. You shouldn't treat them as, Hideo Kojima. I respect him as an artist. I'm sure he's probably done things that I wouldn't like at all, So you shouldn't idolize them in any way. And I think Todd Howard, maybe not as bad as somebody like Bobby Kotick, obviously. As far as we know, Todd Howard didn't threaten to kill anybody. But man, Todd Howard has had a fall since 76's release. You look like you're thinking about something.
Yeah, I'm thinking about all the times I've ever seen Todd Howard say something, and then just that thing is not like, I've never had a reason to like trust Todd Howard or be like that guy. I think people just liked his charisma. Yeah,
maybe.
Yes, his
even though
and stuff, but
that was thinly veiled, I guess, because it really didn't mean a whole lot.
But yeah, he is every single thing. There's been something said, but then it's like Peter Molyneux.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
okay.
It never just worked.
Do we have that sounder?
It just works.
Okay, thank you. I was waiting, but never happened. Richard, what's the next story?
Story by Bloomberg's Joshua Brustein. Has investigated Axie Infinity's crash that just recently happened. Did you want to give the background on this game?
So Axie Infinity is a pay-to-earn game made by... it's in the notes somewhere.
We'll get to it.
We'll find it somewhere. But Axie Infinity is a pay-to-earn game. And it's based on a blockchain. And it's not the Ethereum blockchain. It's a separate blockchain. Doesn't matter.
It's all made up.
Pay to earn or play to earn?
Play to earn.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. So essentially what this is imagine Pokemon Go, and imagine you have a Pikachu. Okay. Now that Pikachu is an NFT. So that Pikachu is unique, just like Ash's Pikachu. And you can go on NFT marketplaces and you could sell that Pikachu, right? And other people can take it. It becomes part of their
collection.
Axie Infinity team. Axie Infinity is essentially you have two teams of characters, you fight each other. I don't know how the mechanics work, that's not the point. But you have a collection of characters, you fight each other, somebody wins, somebody loses, whatever, right? Okay, so back to the Pikachu. Let's say you have two Pikachus, and they love each other very much. You can, through the use of smooth love potions, which is I think sort of like a currency in the game, you can have them procreate and produce like another Pikachu, and that Pikachu's traits will be altered and influenced by the two predecessor Pikachus. So you can have sort of lineages. You literally are breeding these different characters. That idea on its own is kind of interesting for a video game. But for a pay to earn game, you're sustaining an economy, right? Because all these things have values. So that's how Axie Infinity works from 10,000 feet up. Do we have any questions? Because I cannot provide answers.
Anyway, Axie Infinity works on the greater fool theory of finance. You buy into something only hoping someone else will come along and pay more for those assets. This is not infinite, of course. There's so many people on this planet, so much money, etc. And a crash seems to be inevitable. The story is partially about Axie Infinity in general and on Alejo Lopez de Armentia. Sorry.
We'll go with that.
Who has played Axie Infinity for about a year and has invested about $40K since August. Yes. No. Alejo turned to Axie after losing his job during COVID. Axie Infinity was started by Sky Mavis, who thinks the future is turning work and play into one. They apparently also have partnered with Ubisoft in some way, shape, or form. By March of this year, Axie had lost 40% of its daily users and the economy was crashing. In late March, hackers robbed Sky Mavis of about $620 million in cryptocurrencies. And in December 2021, as the Axie Infinity market was falling, Sky Mavis changed its mission statement from play to earn to play and earn.
Yeah, which is distinct, and we'll discuss in a little bit.
Sure. After the hack, Sky Mavis launched Axie Origin, a new version of the game that doesn't involve cryptocurrency. And Mavis acknowledged that many players were willing to engage with a new game only if the complications of crypto were removed. And this is taken direct from the story, quote, "The other key to Axie's popularity was an economy based on a form of paid labor. People who owned Axies could rent them out to players who treated the game as if they were a job. Players who don't own their Axies are akin to digital sharecroppers, but they are widely referred to as scholars, because they're supposedly using their rental Axies to learn about the broader potential of investing in crypto. In Axie's biggest market, the Philippines, the average daily earnings from May to October of 2021 for all but the lowest ranked players were above minimum wage. Of course, actually converting this income into a usable form meant cashing out their cryptocurrencies at a time when many people involved in Axie were saying cryptocurrencies were only going to get more valuable. Sky Mavis's co-founder Jeffrey Zerlin said, quote, "Sometimes having to flesh out the people who are just in it for the money, that's just system self-correcting," end quote. Sky Mavis now consistently downplays the financial aspects of Axie. Regarding Alejo, he bought into a bounce house rental business and doesn't play Axie as much anymore. He estimates that his investment was down about $15K, but that he doesn't know for sure because he stopped looking at a spreadsheet that contains the financials.
So there's a lot here. So that quote by Sky Mavis's co-founder, "Sometimes having to flesh out the people who are just in it for the money, that's the system self-correcting." So the problem is that that's the point of the system existing in the first place, right? Because you don't play... Okay, the Axie Infinity exists not as a game, but as a made from thin air stock market, right? And everything is based on the value of these Axies. So when you have that sort of incentive, then that creates things like, I need to maximize my profit. So what things can I do to maximize my profit in this game? And it becomes third-party software. It becomes spreadsheets. It becomes this scholars program where you're reinventing sharecropping, albeit with cute little creatures on screen, you know? So I don't know. I found that I so much of crypto and so much of pay to earn games, I just find so disingenuous or just blind sometimes. Because when you say something like that, do you not hear yourself? Like, do you not hear yourself? Because you're describing the very existence of your game and saying it's self-correcting. That's not the point. Is those people are playing it to make money. That's everybody, right? There's nobody playing the game because it's fun.
Right.
And part of the reason is because of how complicated getting into crypto is and how expensive getting into crypto is, right? I don't know. I think when we talk about pay to earn games, we have to maybe, I don't know, maybe game is the wrong word, but we have to ask ourselves, why does something exist? So like, why does a movie exist? There's an artistic reason for it to exist. There's an entertainment reason for it to exist. And then we discuss about whether or not it's good or bad. So why does a hedge fund exist? To make money. Has nothing to do with art, has nothing to do with thought, has nothing to do with entertainment. It's just trading green slips of paper that we invented in the last like 200 years or so, right? That's about it. So Axie Infinity, so pay to earn games are not about the art, they're not about the gameplay, they're not about innovation, they're not about any of that, they're just a stock market. And so I guess, I don't know, I get annoyed because there's like this middle ground that people want to play where they understand that, but they don't want to just outright say it.
Right.
Because if you say it, then you're splitting away. I think you're splitting away from something that people like and there's a huge market for, and that's games, right? But I know there's some people out there that say pay to earn games shouldn't be called games. They should be called something else. And, you know, whatever. That change from pay to earn to pay and earn, I think is really interesting because what does it imply? Pay to earn, or excuse me, play to earn means you play and you're gonna earn.
Yeah, you're gonna get money. Yeah,
play
sure.
and earn means you play and you could earn.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a huge distinction there that I really, really like because it's really sly and it's really sort of underhanded.
I kind of try to do that at work, like, but I do it as a like non-guarantee type. It's how much would I get for my Xbox? And I go, well, you could get up to $100. And it's funny because nobody ever hears that. So when I say like, yeah, you could get up to $100, their next thing is, so $100? I'm like, no, you fucking idiot. Like I said, up to $100. But yeah, no, there is that important, like, just very small distinction that changes the entire viewpoint of it.
Yeah.
So
That's why you got to spell it out for people.
yeah, no,
Based on the conditions.
But then I'm the
XYZ,
asshole.
blah, blah, blah. You could get up to $100.
Yes. I wish I don't. This is one of those discussions we just need to approach. You know, if we were to talk to somebody who's really into play to earn games, we just need to we need to understand that we're on different landscapes to begin with.
yeah.
Right. Just like if you went to a car dealership and there's a guy looking to buy a boat, it's a completely different paradigm. It's just opposite things. So how do we change this discussion? First, I think we need to be heavily critical of the crypto market and of pay to earn games. And we also need to understand the wider implications. I have a note here because I think it's a little like a professional sports team, right? And I know I suck, whatever. But think about it, right? You have it if your goal in Axie Infinity is to make the most money possible, which by the way, it is. You got to spend money to make money, right? So you're going to spend all these additional things to beef up your Axie team, right? So if you own a professional sports franchise, then you're going to do everything you can to get better players to win more games. Problem is you're actually paying people for a service, you're providing jobs, it's more complicated. Here, you're just building an economy that is meant to crash because people are not in it for the game. People are in it to exploit the labor. Once it gets high enough, they
cash out.
And it's happened, right? You get to the moon, but only so many people get to the moon. You cash out, and then the market's so low that people aren't buying in anymore, right? So everybody's left with scraps and things and a loss on investment, right? And this is what pay to earn games are. This is it. They crash, people buy in. It's the greater fool. You buy in for $2, you hope some guy comes in and buys for $3, and then you hope some other guy comes in and buys for $4, and you hope the economy takes off. This is LuLaRoe, but it's for dudes. And it's, and it's just as cheesy, and the creators are just as big douchebags as the people that created LuLaRoe. So anyway, I'm getting angry now. That's all I want to say. Play normal games.
Right. This never would have happened with Second Life.
Well, you know what? But you're true. I mean, didn't Second Life's creator say something about NFT? I don't know. Maybe he said something good.
Second Life has been making money for years without NFTs.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Never would have happened to one of my UI games.
That's also true. Yeah. Anyway, okay.
Never would have happened with EVE Online.
Well, it kind of does, I think.
Yeah, but it's better.
Sure, I'll go with that.
Yeah, but it doesn't have NFTs.
That's true, I think.
And their economy is kind of working.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if anything, play EVE Online. Connor, quick update.
Quick update. Activision-Blizzard ready to enter, quote, good faith talks with unions. I think that, Blizzard is in no state to use the phrase good faith when talking about themselves.
Sure.
Especially after everything that has happened within the past year.
Of course.
So they should be ready to just, make deals, not have good faith talks.
You got to read the notes, though, that I crafted for you.
Okay. This was announced in a statement by Activision-Blizzard CEO and a man who thinks Don Draper is a good guy, Bobby Kotick. Of course, this statement also points out that they begin this process after making a big investment in their QA team members over the past few years.
Fuck off. Fuck off. That is so ridiculous, right? Like, I just want to remind everybody, I'm sorry. I know this probably annoys you guys. I'm sorry. When Activision Blizzard was being hit for having a frat boy culture, Bobby Kotick drafted a letter for a female executive and it got sent under her name and she got the flack for it.
Yeah.
Now, she has said things in the past about torture that weren't great.
Yeah.
So that to the side.
Yeah.
That to the side. That's something Bobby Kotick did. Every word out of his mouth is just bullshit. Like, I don't understand. I guess he's still in the position at this point, so he has to say things because it's part of his job. But I don't know how you can take anything that the guy says seriously. So I just wanted to say, fuck Activision Blizzard, fuck Bobby Kotick, get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means. I just heard Eric Andre say it once. And
that's a dangerous game to play, Tyler. That's a very dangerous game to play.
We should bleep it out.
Especially Eric Andre.
Yeah. Okay, so I think
I'll edit that out. Don't.
But keep this discussion.
Yes.
We want the uncomfortable context.
Yeah.
Do we have tidbits?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
A man discusses the news, but not like the big news, the little news. Little bit. This is the Tidbits.
We were one day off from having NPDs. I'm sorry.
Damn.
Blame Matt. Good old Matt.
And fuck Matt Piskin. I'm kidding. He's a gift to the world.
Depending on who you are, he loves pineapple on his pizza. So.
Oh, well, in that case, just kidding.
He's my best friend.
So. There's nothing wrong with pineapple.
You'll be on the show next week.
Nothing wrong. Oculus Quest 2 is a huge success. Yay.
Hey.
The Oculus Quest 2 is the most successful VR headset to date, with nearly 15 million units sold since its announcement in September of 2020. Quest 2 has contributed to massive growth in the VR sales and consumer adoption landscape. VR sales grew 97% in 2021 and 242% in quarter one of 22.
Question is, how real is that growth? Because how many people bought it, played some fucking game for 5 minutes, and haven't picked it up since? That's what I want to know.
It doesn't matter. They got the money, man.
Yeah.
But I think it does matter, because if the market, if you're somebody who's looking at investing in that market, right? You're going to want to know, because let's say I make a social media company and I say, holy hell, I've got 300 million users, and you're an advertiser, and you're like, oh, okay, I will buy this many ads, kind sir. And then you're like, how often do people use your social media website? And I'm like, oh, well, I have 300 million, 10% use it every day, and 90% use it once a month.
That's 30 million people. That's a lot.
But it's a lot. but the value is a lot less than 300 million.
What the message here is, if you're an investor looking at developing something for a headset, don't just look at the sales. Look at usage.
And that's what I was saying, is I wonder how valuable this market actually is, because the units is big and that's great. I'm not a huge fan of whatever fucking Zuckerberg's
Metaverse
view on like VR, which according to Mark Zuckerberg, the absolute pinnacle of VR is going to work when you're at home or some bullshit like that. But the important part is usage rate, right? Because I use my headsets. I'll use my Index before I use the Quest 2. I'm not sure how often you use it.
I haven't used it in a bit, but
yeah. But you're someone if game comes around.
Yeah.
You'll definitely pick it up.
I haven't used it in a while because there's really no use for it.
But you have a Rift.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my old Rift. Anyway, if that's the only question I have, I'm sorry. Continue.
I know where you're coming from. I also think that the not inverse is true, but I also think that if an investor or somebody who wanted to make VR games, 240% growth, let's make some more VR games. It's more content,
totally
more,
So 240% growth means that there is interest in the in that sector. So start investing in that sector to proliferate that growth. Because it's 240%. Let's say 10% of that stays. Well, I mean, that's still a 24% growth over a year. And if you start investing there, that 24%, they're going to stick around for a while.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's all bad math. I just think it'd be interesting to see usage rates or whatever, which I don't think we'll ever see. Because I think even like around tech, like even like Netflix, like keeps their use, like isn't that it's basically,
I mean Xbox does too with Game Pass.
Yeah, like they don't want people to know like what is selling and stuff like that. So anyway, okay.
The Grammys are adding new categories to its award, but the only one we care about is best score for a video game.
Hey,
that's it. What's up?
Do you have a favorite soundtrack this year?
No,
I thought Elden Ring was pretty good.
That's what's unless the songs are like front and center for me, I usually don't hear them.
That's interesting.
Because I play my TV on low volume.
Oh, okay.
I barely hear my TV. That's probably something I should fix.
I was trying to think of we have our list down here, and Tunic has some good
tunes.
I don't know if you guys have played Tunic.
I played the demo last year.
Iron Lung has some good music, but yeah, I haven't really heard
music underwater.
Well, it's like creepy, so
atmospheric.
Yeah. Anyway,
Sonic Origins will not include the original soundtracks for Sonic 3. As we suspected, or as we talked about a couple weeks back, Sonic Origins will not include the original soundtracks for these games. During the Sonic live stream, social media manager Katie Cherzanowski, said this, quote, "I know one question we've seen kind of over and over is, what is the situation on the music in Sonic 3 and Knuckles? While unfortunately we can't use all the original sounds from the Sega Genesis version of the game, Jun Sonoe has been working really hard to adapt the original music that was composed in 1993 for Sonic Origins. He has been going so far as reproducing it with the same sound chip from the Sega Genesis and using his own digital audio tape collection to make this as faithful to the originals as possible." Now, try to make this explanation quick. I'm probably missing some stuff, but Sonic 3 specifically will have its soundtracks affected, namely 7 of the tracks: Carnival Night Zone Act 1 and 2, Ice Cap Zone Act 1 and 2, Launch Base Zone Act 1 and 2, and the 2-player menu and the competition area. These are the tracks that have pretty much all been specifically confirmed to be worked on by Michael Jackson. And his team, it was confirmed by his team that he worked on those. Jackson was a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog back in the 90s, and he offered to create the soundtrack for Sonic 3. Also, at the same time, there was another soundtrack being made for Sonic 3 before he came up and was like, "Hey, I'll make the soundtrack." Michael Jackson's camp has said that the singer pulled out after creating several tracks because he was not happy with the Genesis sound chip and how it made songs sound. He was very musically inclined.
Peculiar. Yeah.
This caused Sega to pull out of the deal as well. Hold on. I skipped a line. Of course, also at the time, the allegations against him arose.
Sure.
So, of course, he backed out. And then, of course, Sega also pulled out, for reasons. But they still at least used a couple of the tracks that Jackson created when Sonic 3 released on the Genesis. Of course, nowadays, there are major legal issues regarding the game and the soundtrack. The new soundtrack that Jun Sonoe is working on is supposedly the original prototype soundtrack that was being made before Sonic Team moved on to Jackson's rendition.
Okay, interesting. Alrighty. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, where we post videos. Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.